Go ahead.
So what happened to Mike Weston?
Yep.
Was he ever here?
He's muted. Yeah, oh yeah, he was here, but he's muted now.
He's here in the list,
He's got a little red
but he's
microphone in the
not
bottom corner.
on video or,
I'm asking him to start video now. And I'll try and unmute him. But I think that's doing an ask to unmute as well. I think he has to do it.
yeah, I agree with you. Here he is.
Ding dong, there he is.
Mike, you're still muted.
Mike, you have to unmute yourself. I was
There we
trying
go.
to unmute you. There you are.
I was trying to use my new MacBook Pro and it didn't want to work.
Well, you're still on the other side of the fence. There's two Mike Westons on the screen, but one,
Well, there's nothing here to, let's see.
That's fine, you're fine.
Yeah.
We're not getting any feedback, so.
I've got plenty of feedback.
it disappeared.
All right, are we ready to go? I'm ready.
Sure.
All right, are we rolling? Yeah. We're rolling.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Select Board's call order at 6 p.m. May 28, 2020. But before I move on to the first thing, I just want to mention that we lost a dear friend last week, Stuart Barwise. He was a longtime selectman. We all loved him to death, all of us. Lori, Mike, Pat, Ed, Sheila, we all worked well with him, and it's just a sad, sad situation. We wish Phoebe and her kids, Barbara and Stan, the very best, and if there's anything that we can possibly do, we'd like to do it. Anybody else want to make any comments?
I do. I gotta say that when I first became a selectman, that Stuart was in my corner and he was patient, he was friendly, he was diplomatic, and he helped me to no end. I'll never forget it.
He's done that with everybody that's ever worked with him on this board.
Well, Mike, I thought I was special because I was going to say the exact same thing about Stuart. And Stuart and I often communicated even after he left, mostly via text. And I remember the last conversation that we had, it was on his birthday. I think it was end of March, beginning of April when all this was going on. And he was just the same great guy. I don't care what you asked of him, no matter what the answer was from him, you always felt better when he told it to you. I always joked that Stuart could tell you to go to hell and you'd look forward to the trip.
It'd be a very diplomatic go to hell.
Yeah, right. Very, very much so.
I'm very envious of the way that Stuart had with people. But.
Oh, Sheila, you're muted. We can't hear you.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right, just, ditto on what you've all said. I always envied his power with words.
He was very good at that. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yep. I was very envious how he could always do a really great speech,
Right.
put it all well together and present it. Very, very diplomatic.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed most about him was that no matter how antagonistic the other person was that was talking, he could understand and let them feel like they had been able to contribute, and there was a dialogue and it was positive, and he would consider what they said, and he would leave them thinking, yes, okay, they've heard me, and I'm in really good shape. So my guideline was watch what Stuart does and see if you can do it too,
Well said, Pat. I'll never forget, because it was my chairmanship and my meeting, if you will, when we purchased the land on North Street. And it was no coincidence that I let Stuart do all the talking. I'm thoroughly convinced that that vote could have gone another way had Stuart, not had
He
his
wasn't
special
going.
brand
Yeah.
of just way with people and a way to empathize with people when all I really wanted to do was do something else with them. But Stuart was very, just a skill and you don't teach that. That's something I think you're born with. And I'll never, ever look at that piece of property and not think of Stuart.
You know what, talking about Stewart, there's one thing I did forget to do, and that was take a roll call. I gotta take a roll call. Sheila,
Here,
Pat,
Here,
Ed,
Here,
Mike,
Here.
and I'm here, Helen. So, yeah, Stewart's gonna be sadly missed, that's not no joke. He loved Kennebunkport. And anything he could do with Kennebunkport to make it better, he was there on top. So, God rest him.
yep, God bless.
So this is a virtual Board of Selectmen and budget, and how do I get that? This is the virtual Board of Selectmen meeting. We're using the Zoom conferencing format. The agenda on the town's website has the information needed public to participate by Zoom conferencing format or telephone. If you wish to participate through Zoom, you can join Zoom meeting. Webinar ID is 935-2347-9412. If you wish to make a public comment on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature by clicking participants on your computer screen. The moderator will be notified and he will identify you when it is your turn to comment. Item 2, approve the May 14, 2020 Selectmen minutes.
So moved.
second,
I have a first and a second. I'm going to take a roll call. Sheila?
Aye.
Pat?
aye.
Ed?
aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye. Item 3, public hearing. This is to amend the traffic and parking control ordinance. I'm going to open the public hearing now, and Lori will review the amendments. Hi, Lori.
Hi, so we have Chief Sanford with us here as well. And the amendments that are in the packet on the agenda show deletions with a cross through. Those are things that are currently in the ordinance that are being deleted, and any additions have an underline. So there are some amendments that include under section 1, unlawful parking. It clarifies that temporary or emergency parking regulations, vehicles can be towed because they obstruct traffic, create unsafe vehicle or pedestrian congestion, or are left unattended in violation of emergency regulations. Section 2, parking control regulations. We removed some tow-away zones on Dyke, Kings Highway, and Westmore Lane in favor of more general language. It was just odd that those 3 streets were the only streets that had tow-away zones. And we, under section 13, there was a note that this year in 2020, parking permits go into effect on May 15th. And in section 14 is where the majority of those changes are under impoundment. It authorizes the police department to remove vehicles from a street or public place under control of the town to a garage or other place of safety at the expense of the registered owner of the vehicle. And we have several reasons why that would happen. If a vehicle is left unattended upon a bridge or causeway and it is an obstruction to traffic, if a vehicle is disabled and constitutes an obstruction to traffic, when a vehicle is left unattended, is parked illegally to constitute a hazard or obstruction, and when a vehicle hinders snow removal, And when a vehicle is parked in violation of emergency or temporary parking regulations. And part of what has already been in the regulation is when a vehicle has 3 or more parking citations. Chief, do you have anything to add about the difference in this? This is modeled after the Sanford language.
Yes, and, this is common in most municipalities. It's not anything harsher, or anything that is out of the norm. And it will help us to do our jobs more effectively. We're not out there looking to cause harm to folks, but there are times that we need to be able to take more action than what we've been able to do in the past.
I think it's past time that we do this.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
should have done it, we never even, hardly even knew that we didn't have this tool to work with. And I think it's really important. It's a real important thing that you'll be able to do if you have to do it. Is there any comments from the public?
So a reminder that people would need to raise their virtual hand. And then David will let us know.
I see no hands at this time except for Sheila.
I just want to make a comment that when this was all discussed at the Goose Rock speech meeting, I was not for it. I think my attitude is sort of, if it's not broke, why fix it? And Chief, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but for the few times that we have incidences, I'm not sure, as a tourist town, towing is what we want to be doing. I have no problem with our police. Chief, I trust you with my life, but my thought is, as time goes on, could this be abused? And so for that, I voted no.
Sheila, I think you have a hard time separating tourists from the people who live here actually year-round and who are inconvenienced a great deal by some of this stuff. I think what we need to do is we need to have, somebody's got to stand up for the people that live here and not just for the tourists. And I get disappointed when people do that.
And I
Mike.
understand that, and I respect your opinion. I just think that listening to some people who live here, they would just as soon not have out-of-staters, out-of-towners. And so consequently, I think we hear those problems more than we hear actual problems. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
Anybody else want to talk about this?
I think it's a great idea, and I think that, Sheila's point that this could be abused, that's a fair point, but I think that could be said of any one of our ordinances. So on that point, I have complete faith in the people that we have.
I do too.
Pat?
Yes, I think that what everyone out there listening to us has to realize is it is the responsibility of the selectmen to make sure that none of this happens. And that, in working with the town manager, this will not be abused because it is not who we are and it's not the way we want to operate. So I'm comfortable with it. It gives the chief, if he needs it, the authority to take it to the limit. And that, that's the way it'll happen.
This is a tool that we need. I mean, I have a life raft on the roof of my boat. I hope I never have to use it, but it's there just in case. And I think this is a perfect example of that.
Just so you know, you do have a virtual hand up.
Chief did.
You want to?
We have David James. Shall I have him talk?
Yes.
Okay.
His microphone is off.
I attempted to unmute him.
Mute.
There we go.
All right,
David, are you there? There you
Yes,
go.
I am. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes,
Okay. I was going to say about the same thing that Pat Ricks said, that I think it's a good ordinance to have on the books. It's something that can be abused, but it's up to the chief of police and the board of selectmen to make sure that that doesn't happen. So bottom line, I do support it.
Thank you, Dave. Is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak on this issue? I don't see anybody. You see anybody, Dave? Any hands or anything?
No one other than Dave James.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to close the public hearing, and we're going to, would somebody like to make a motion?
I make
I
a
would.
motion to close it.
Nope. Oh, to close the meeting? Yeah, I second that.
I have a first, a second. Mike?
Yes.
Pat?
Aye.
Sheila?
we're closing the meeting?
Public meeting. Ed?
Aye.
And I say aye. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion on this?
I'd like to make them,
Or
let
go
Mike
ahead.
do it. I'm always making motions. Let Mike do it.
I'd make a motion that we accept the ordinance as amended.
I have a motion
Second.
from Mike. Is there a second? And I have a second from Ed. I'm going to take a roll call on this. Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Sheila?
Nay,
Alan says aye. Motion carried. Okay. Excuse me. Item 4, public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with an issue that's not on the agenda. Did we get any written letters or anything, Lori?
We did not.
Okay. I don't see any hands at all or anything, so guess we'll move along. Item 5, consider application to renew liquor license submitted by Arundel Wharf Restaurant. Staff
So
recommends
moved.
approval of this license. I have a first from Ed,
second,
second from Sheila. I'll take a roll call. Sheila?
aye,
Pat?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye. Okay, item 6, consider the deck agreement with the Hurricane Restaurant. I'm going to pass this one over to Laura.
So at your last meeting, we discussed with Ralph Austin, the attorney for Hurricanes Restaurant, and the new owner Taylor, about the deck reconstruction on the back of the property that abuts the parking lot. One of the questions was about notice on if the town decided that they no longer wanted to continue with the agreement. And you guys agreed on a 30 and 90 day, 30 day on use for beverage and food and 90 for use at all. And so that has been incorporated into the agreement. Amy Chow has reviewed and Ralph Austin has reviewed. And staff is recommending approval. I see you have a virtual hand up on that, question on that, and Ralph is in the audience if there are questions for him.
Ann Kelly?
I actually had raised my hand to speak in the forum portion, but wasn't recognized.
Oh, we're sorry.
Yeah, so I missed I guess I missed the opportunity.
Can we go back to it after we finish this agenda item?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm asking Alan, but he's the chairman, but
I don't have a problem with it. Can we do that, Laurie?
Yep,
Okay, we'll come back to it after this,
Thank you.
and just raise your hand again after this item is over with.
I think somebody else put their hand up, Alan.
David James.
Well, but I saw neither hand when we closed the public comment period.
Well, we gave quite a lot of time, but
Yep.
David has his hand up for this. want to bring him in?
Dave James, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Dave.
Okay. I have no problem with what's being proposed by Hurricane. My question is, I saw a note in the paper today that Allison's will be opening outside dining too in the parking area, and I wondered how that ties in and what regulations control that.
So the current dining for Allison's and Hurricanes, if you go to Dock Square parking lot, you see a tent up. That is temporary approval for the month of June right now because of the COVID situation and that they can only dine outside. So the Hurricanes agreement is for the deck area itself, that very small deck ramp between the parking lot and their facility. And that is more longstanding. That is in agreement regardless of COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome, Dave. Any more comment? Sheila?
I have a question on number 4, the termination. Is there, do we have to, should we, I'm thinking, should there be a reason on the part of the Board of Selectmen to ask Hurricane to take the porch down? It's so open to me that, you know, what, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when none of us are available, or maybe Laurie will still be here. I don't know. But, you know.
Oh, she's a lifer.
Should we have, I just don't understand having it just open. And you know, I'm looking back and remembering how they took the buses away from us in the parking lot. If we have a board that is, say, not, again, not business friendly, would they or could they just say, all right, that is on town property and we don't want it anymore, without giving a reason? Oh, you're selling to underage drinkers, or the property isn't safe, that sort of thing. I find that a little disturbing. The fact
Laurie,
that,
do you remember what we did with Mabel's? Because that was a similar situation. They were in the
So-
right of way.
Yeah, we've done 30-day notice in the past, and I think on one we gave a 60-day notice. So part of the reason for the notice provision is because we're not getting town meeting authorization. So the selectmen can only give kind of a temporary authorization if it's a long-standing change ownership of town property that would take a town meeting vote. So we are trying to be cognizant if the town meeting, who is legislative authority, decides a different outcome in the future. We want to make sure the selectmen have not tied the town's legislative body in that event.
I'm just looking out for, I guess I'm looking out for the owners. If they're gonna put all that money into a porch, what's to say next year the Board of Selectmen decide, no. I mean,
Well, Hurricanes employs one of the best attorneys around. Sure.
He's a stickler. He's a stickler.
And he would find a way to hold the town's feet to the fire.
All righty.
Isn't he gonna retire soon or something? I heard a rumor.
And
Who, Sheila?
And number 8, I guess I just don't understand that.
So for example, if the ordinance is changed, if different requirements came in down the road that we can't foresee today,
Yeah,
we are just saying, we can't override those future actions, as well as we can't override, new state requirements regarding liquor laws and things like that. So
but
keeping
they
in
would be,
mind,
they would be I'm assuming.
well, it depends on what the rule changes in the future, but all of these are policies laid on top of other regulations, whether they be local or statewide.
Okay, all right.
I
Any
move
more
we accept
comments?
this document if there are no more comments.
I don't see any. I don't see anybody in public. So you, Ed made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sheila seconds it. Okay, I'll take a roll call. Sheila?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion passes. Okay, item number 7, award the gravel bid. Mike, is Mike
But
here or not?
you were gonna do the public comment.
Oh, yeah, that's right too. I'm sorry about that. Is she on still?
I get the sun.
Okay, yeah, she has her hand up. Yeah.
She's
You-
unmuted.
Okay.
Ann, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
My name is Ann Kelly, and I live at 13A New Bedford Road in Goose Rocks Beach. And my question pertains to the adoption of the parking regulations for the summer that you passed on the 14th of May. I'm wondering, since this is a very fluid public health situation, what kind of decision criteria or evidence you'll be watching to see if those new or those recently changed parking regulations that the beach is totally open on July 1 to both day passes and all marked spots. Will you be looking at what kind of evidence or decision criteria would you consider to reverse any of those changes?
would you like to answer that, Laurie?
Well, in terms of the police chief and I'll let Chief Sanford speak about the patrols and observances. I mean, for me, it is about what's happening around us, what information we're getting from Maine CDC, as well as what guidance we're getting from the governor and the other parks. We also do weekly meetings with the coastal Maine, coastal New Hampshire, and coastal Mass communities. And so we are sharing that information about what we're seeing in each of our communities and what is happening in other states as well. And then I'm also depending on the police department and our community safety officers in terms of their documentation and observances about what's happening at the beach. Chief, do you want to talk about that?
He's not muted. I mean, he is muted. Sorry.
Yeah,
There you go.
so what we've been doing, ma'am, is we brought on some CSO that we had in the past, and we had them on the beach last weekend, and they were documenting, crowd volumes and things of that nature, and we're also monitoring the 39 spaces to ensure that folks are adhering to the requirement of being a property taxpayer. I did some statistics today, and I think, if I recall, from May 8th to today, currently, we've issued 22 violations of folks from away that were parked in those spots. And a lot of it's weather dependent as well. So, we're trying to use those as gauges to help inform those that make those decisions.
Pat, you have a
Yeah,
comment?
I think when I look at this situation, especially now in the crisis that we're in, it's a cooperative effort with the people in town and the visitors in town. And if they are respectful and responsible, they will try to make this thing work. If you get out there and abuse it, you're going to cause us to have to do something they might not like. So I'm appealing to everyone out there. Take a look at what we're trying to do. Go with the spirit of what we're trying to do and understand it's for everyone's safety and we're all involved.
Rightly said. Does that answer your question, all your questions, Ann?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Item 7, award the gravel bid. Is Mike here? Probably, no,
You don't see Mike in the attendee room.
I don't see him either.
So we are in the process of purchasing gravel in time for construction projects. Mike did bid this out and is requesting that we award the bid to Stonefield Aggregates and Lyman as they came in with the lowest per ton price and delivery price, which was $875 per ton plus $350 per ton delivery if we do choose to have it delivered.
Have we ever done business with him before, do you know? I don't remember it.
I mean, Mike might have, I
don't
don't
remember.
remember in my time that we've done business with them.
No, I mean, it's a good price, that's for sure.
It's a very good price.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, in the absence of Mike, I don't believe he would have suggested that we award the bid to Stonefield Quarry if he didn't think that they were going to deliver, so.
We can promote Chris Simeone, who is in our attendee as deputy
We'll
public
talk
works
to Chris
director.
soon enough, but I would make a motion that we accept the contract to be awarded to Stonefield Quarry for $875 per ton plus $350 a ton delivery.
I'll
he makes the
second.
motion, Sheila seconds it. So I'll do a roll call. Sheila?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Okay, item number 8, award final engineering construction administration contract for Cape Porpoise Pier work. I'm gonna pass this over to the boss.
So we,
See,
as
she
you
knows who
know,
the boss is.
figured it was me or Sheila, and either person would have gladly accepted that crown.
You betcha.
So the Cape Porpoise Pier, as you know, we've had some infrastructure issues with the pier, and we have been working the past couple of years on a preliminary engineering design and looking at a phased construction project approach. We wanted to move forward. We've applied for funding from the state through the Small Harbor Improvement Program and requested $250,000 a year over a 3-year period. We also recently, Mike has followed up and requested funds through the EDA, the federal level, with some disaster funds that they have available. And we are following that as well and hoping that that is successful. But in order to continue down this path, we do need final engineering and construction administration. We did a quality-based selection request in order to meet the guidelines of both state and federal grant requirements. As Mike has noted in his memo, we sent it to 15 firms that are approved by Maine DOT. And we did get responses that even though economic times are challenging, engineers and construction firms are still quite busy. So we received one response from Baker Design Consultants, who we have been working with on the preliminary design. And he did the work for us at Government Wharf and has years and years of maritime experience in Maine. And we are recommending that we would award that to him.
How much is,
I would just like to add for anybody listening and for the other selectmen that I say myself as a fisherman and a liaison to the peer committee who's been working with Barney Baker, that he has listened to the fishermen. He has come up with some very good ideas. And even if this was competitive, he would be my first choice at this point. He's done a wonderful job. And oftentimes, the fishermen feel as though they're not listened to. And I can say with confidence that that is not the case in this instance.
he did a great job on Government Wharf also.
He did. So I would make the motion that we accept, or that we award the bid to Baker Design Consultants.
I'll second.
Ed made the first, Sheila seconded it. Do a roll call. Sheila?
Aye.
Excuse me. Uh, Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Okay, presentation of the FY 2021 wastewater department budget. Chris must be around there somewhere. I don't see him.
Here he comes.
Okay,
There,
there he is.
microphone.
Chris,
There we go.
You need to unmute. There you go. You're good.
Can everyone hear me okay?
We
Yeah.
can hear you just great.
Okay, great. So initially, like the rest of the department heads, I prepared our budget back in February, anticipating them presenting that in March. However, as you know, with the onset of the COVID pandemic, we all had to postpone that to address the pandemic with each of our departments. The direction that we received after that was to try to come back with a 0% increase in the budget, as we're concerned about the current economy and the cash flow as a result of the pandemic. So what I had brought to you, I believe that you received beforehand, is the budget that I'm proposing. And the budget would stand at a 0% increase, which would result in a user fee of $407.62. This
Can you
is
say that again, Chris?
sure. So the budget
Hear you.
I brought forward that I am proposing is a 0% increase. This would leave the user fee at a total of $467.62 as it was last year. To accomplish this, it was difficult to accomplish this. We were able to do it by reducing our capital requests drastically. The operational budget is already pretty thin, so we did trim a few line items within the operational budget. Probably the one that stands out the most would be the heating fuel budget. We did have a warmer winter this past winter, so we didn't use the heating oil and the propane that we anticipated on. So that's one of the line items that I trimmed back to accomplish this. And looking through the budget, I think that you'll see the salaries, the overtime, and the fringe benefits. The changes there are due to either longevity, contractual increases, or reflect actual participation in actual costs. So I won't go through those if you're okay with that.
Fine.
So Chris, can you just also talk about the need for the reserve funds and the clarifier project and the filter press and how that ties in also to our continued monitoring of PFAS and PFOS and where we are with that with the state?
Sure. So initially I had that discussion with you, I believe back in February. The issue of the PFAS chemical has kind of blown up nationally. It is affecting us here at the municipal level as well. The PFAS chemical is a chemical that it's in everybody's biosolids, so everybody's dealing with it. Although our levels are very low, it is still there. Because of that, it's uncertain as to how we're going to be disposing of our biosolids. Currently, the presses that we have now do not achieve a solids concentration high enough that we can have our product landfilled. So at this time, we're still composting and we're holding that compost, we're not releasing it. So as a result, the belt filter presses that we're using now are old technology. They are in excess of 40 years old, and we are looking to replace those with a newer technology that will provide us with a solids concentration that is higher, that is acceptable by the two local landfill companies that we would be using if we were to consider having our solids hauled off. Those presses are upwards of $500,000 a piece, depending on what you go with. We have spent some time recently looking at a couple different pieces of technology, but it is expensive. The clarifiers are another issue. The clarifiers are what we use to basically still the water, remove the solids from the water, and return the clean water back to the environment. Those also are in very tender shape. It is one of the first things that came up in our fiscal sustainability plan for replacement. Those also are expensive. We received an initial preliminary estimate of about $931,000 to rehabilitate both of those. That figure may or may not be accurate based on current workload, and there appears to be a lot of work still going on construction-wise, and it's been difficult to even obtain a contractor to take care of the foundation that we need to complete for the generator project. So that's just an estimate for now. But what we're looking for is the $1 million in reserve funds to replace or at least rehabilitate one of the clarifiers and one of the belt filter presses.
So just to clarify, right now we are composting, and that has been our mode, and we have sold the compost. Now the state has come forward and said if you are over this limit, you can't sell it. We are slightly over that limit, and the state has said, well, you can sell it, but have people sign this waiver saying they won't use it for food production, and they're going to dilute it with other fill and compost. And by the way, all the liability is on you, the town, if anything happens. And, we don't have insurance for pollution. I mean, you can't bind pollution liability insurance. And so our concern has been, the state and feds haven't made clear regulations on this yet. And we have not wanted to put potential liability that the town would have to pay out of pocket for. And so the issue is we can't continue to compost for much longer. We're just running out of space. And if we have compost with chemicals with those levels, that can create other challenges. So we have been looking at some other creative ways to increase the dilution in the compost. But ultimately, we think the best measure going forward is to landfill this material rather than compost it, and it frees up some other expense in the budget and staff time. So, it does have some benefits. But in order to do that, we need to change out the filter press.
Lori, to the end of landfilling, would we do that here in town or would we ship it off-site?
We would have to ship it off-site. There's no landfill in town we could use.
Okay.
So we have just we have 2 filter presses or just 1?
We have 2.
2. So you're asking to just change one or to rebuild both of them or what?
To replace one of them for now. Like I said, they are costly, so we're looking to just replace one for now.
You want to do one set, right, Chris? A press and the, what's the
One
Clarifier.
Yes.
So, well, do you think that might take care of the problem?
Well-
Filter press?
Well, it won't be a filter press technology, but the newer technology will provide us with a better solids product. Right now, if you were to consider the cost of hauling off what we produce now, you'd be paying quite a bit more money to haul off water content.
Okay.
So the goal is to achieve a drier solid so that we're not paying to haul water content off.
Well, we've also heard from haulers that based on the water content, they won't even haul it or take it at the landfill.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So, but that won't take care of all the chemicals that's in it, right? It won't get rid of it.
No, it won't. That will not change or remove the chemical.
But our immediate problem, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, is that if one of these systems goes down, we're going to lose 50% capacity at wastewater, correct?
Well, there are two different systems. So the clarifiers are essential. They're what is used to remove all the settleable and floating solids that remain in the wastewater before we discharge the clean effluent back to Kennebunk River. If one of those goes down, we will not meet permit. We need both of those clarifiers online. They're very important for that. That's a process that's in place to make sure that we achieve our permit. The press is something different. That's how we remove the solids, and we actually press the water content out of those and remove it in large bulk quantities. That if either of those presses went down, we have to, for redundancy. Sometimes we do run two at a time to take the tank down quicker. However, one would be sufficient for now. If we were to replace one of those belt filter presses with a new press, we would use the new press to achieve the drier content and keep the belt filter press as a backup until we could, replace the other one.
So it's not a matter of if, it's simply a matter of when we replace these.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, in a different world, we would be asking for a bond to do a lot of work. We could easily come up with $2 to $3 million of work needed for the wastewater system. But we are trying to be fiscally conservative, but also not leave us in a position where the plant is not doing what it's intended. So we think this is the stepped approach that hopefully will buy us some more time.
So I need a motion to accept the proposed budget
Can I
and
ask a
to
question?
use up to $1 million in reserve. Go ahead, Mike.
Can I ask a question of Chris?
Sure, Mike.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at all this and it's an education for me. I haven't been down to the wastewater plant for probably 8 or 9 years, but what risk are we're talking about, this is the best we can do, and I see that what we've taken out of the budget for capital stuff, what's our risk?
Well, more of the risk right now, as far as meeting permit goes, would be the clarifiers. If those go down, we would probably not be able to meet permit with our effluent requirements. We'd be in violation of that permit. Ultimately, that could result to, Department of Environmental Protection getting involved. It could mean a fine. I'm not saying that it would. They seem to be pretty amenable if you're able to fix the issue at hand. But the clarifiers are in very tender shape. And if we have a failure, I don't believe it's something that Mike would be able to fix. So the clarifiers are much more of a risk than the presses.
And those are the most expensive. That's
Yes, they are.
Chris, haven't we already quote unquote fixed these? Didn't we get some parts from Kennebunk when they made their upgrade? Was it the clarifiers?
No, that would be for the presses. Yeah, that would be the spare parts that we had from the presses.
Because there are no more spare parts for these components, correct?
Right.
I mean, manufactured.
Right. The presses are old technology. They're no longer made.
So Chris, you've evaluated this and Lori's evaluated this, and you believe this is a risk that we can take with relative certainty that we can meet our requirements?
So I guess I don't quite understand your question. The risk that we would assume by not rehabilitating one of the clarifiers is that if one of them goes down, we will not be able to meet permit. So if we don't put the money into it, the risk would be we cannot make our permit.
I think
I
the
think
issue
Mike's asking is, go ahead, Laura.
the clarifier arms just cannot be repaired anymore. I mean, they have been welded and there's just not much metal to attach to anymore. And so what the issue is if we were in violation of our permit, we would be calling DEP and be saying, we were in violation, but this is why, and this is what we're gonna do. In this case, I don't know that we would have anything to do. But the concern is we would be in violation every day until we replace them.
Yeah, I'm not against the replacement. What I'm trying to get at is,
How much of a risk?
are both of them in bad shape?
Yes.
Yes, they are, yeah.
So, and we can run with one?
Well, at least
No.
if we had one, we would feel comfortable. But I do believe that we would have to look at the option of bonding in another couple of years to take care of the other one.
And do you have a couple of years left in it?
We hope so.
I mean, our thought process has been, how do we fiscally make this work? And the reality is that our wastewater system is built on the backs of the commercial industry of this town. And that means the hotels. And so if the hotels are not operating this year, for example, the Colony Hotel pays $60,000 a year towards the wastewater bill. And so, that's where this is being built. And we can create a commitment and a budget, but if people can't pay, that doesn't put money in the bank either. So we are trying to measure this about how we all move forward. We have looked at various scenarios. Chris has done a lot of analysis. We've looked, we've had the engineers in, we've talked with Mike Claus, and, we think this is a good measure, keeping in mind too that you could give us $5 million, but there's only so much work we can do in a certain time period.
Yeah.
And so if we could get this done, then that frees us up to do more. And we do have a sewer bond that will be retiring in a couple of years. And our thought process is then we could come back for a bond authorization. And by the time we do the work and bond the funds, the other bond will retire. And so it would not be an impact to the sewer budget. Ideally, we would have more funds in the sewer budget for some other smaller capital. But just like everywhere, we're trying to balance people's economic issues with what we need.
I understand now. I understand.
Yeah, and Mike, to your, to explain a little bit, I forget that you've just come on the board because you were on the board when I came on. It's like you never left in some instances, but we have been talking about this for quite a while now with Chris, and it's my understanding that or my fear is that if one of them goes down, then we're really kind of precarious because.
Indeed, you know what, yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to make the motion that we remove the $1 million from their capital reserve.
Yeah.
Because it won't impact the taxpayers at this point, it won't impact the rates, and if this work needs to be done. And I know we all agree on that.
Yeah, we all do, yeah.
So that's my motion.
So would you also go ahead and include the budget,
Yes.
wastewater budget in that same motion?
You didn't hear that, Al?
I just did.
And I'll second that.
Okay, Ed made the first, Mike made the second. I'm gonna take a roll. Any more discussion?
No, I'd just like to
You
thank
guys-
Chris for all his work
Yeah.
because he
Yeah,
made it
thank you.
very clear to us the importance of what goes on over there.
And our goal was to have you all in for a tour this year, and we were gonna invite the budget committee, but then a little thing COVID kind of canceled all that. But we'd like to get you out there when we can.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Definitely.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
And I would just like to add that I did have a meeting last week on May 19th with the wastewater committee, and they did approve the budget to bring forward to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
So I have a first and a second. I'm gonna do a roll call. Sheila?
aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye. Motion carries.
Thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
Nice job.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Nice job. Nice
Too.
job.
Thank you.
Item number 10, authorize a sewer commitment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none? I'll call a roll call. Sheila?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Item 11, presentation of FY 2021 Cape Porpoise Pier budget.
Yep, so I'm gonna ask Dave to bring up Chris Mayo and Jen Lord. So while he's doing that, I'll just note, I did include in your packet a letter that Mike Claus sent the Department of Marine Resources with a request for CARES Act relief funding for our fishermen, to see if they would use any of the funding they've received to pay pier dues for the year. You know, this was kind of a shot in the dark, but we did send that along, as well as we know the fishing industry is getting impacted greatly by COVID. So Chris has put together this budget, and I'm sad to report that it doesn't have a 0% increase. The budget is pretty thin to begin with. Chris, I'm just gonna ask you to unmute yourself and then talk a little bit about the budget.
Sure. So, everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, the budget's gone through many iterations from pre-COVID to current COVID times, with different directives and different goals in terms of final outcome. The version in front of you is the best we could do while maintaining some sort of an operational budget for maintenance and repairs of the facilities. One of the challenges of late has been our waste removal costs, which has nearly doubled. I feel that that's due to the numerous factors. One, a lot of folks in the wintertime are using frozen bait, which comes in cardboard boxes and bags. Most folks were using Bradbury's Market to dispose of the cardboard. With Bradbury turning their facility off to the public, the burden of disposal of that waste came on to my budget. So in looking at the budget, Jen was a great help in figuring out where we could just, skin a nickel on it, with the most minor of increases to user fees. So the final scenario we came up with was a 5-cent increase in the surcharge on fuel, bringing the surcharge to 35 cents, as well as a 2.3% increase on peer membership fees across the board. The peer committee approved the CPI increase a few years ago as their modus operandi to increase, to cover expenses in the budget. I presented the budget to the peer committee and they approved with a couple caveats. There was some concern that the operational budget wasn't enough to sufficiently allow operations, being the main issue. I feel that if the pier reconstruction project continues on the pace that it is, with some of the promising signs we've gotten through the grant process, I feel that for the next year or so, a skinny budget is manageable. That being said, we may have an instance where major issues arise that my budget cannot shoulder on its own.
Like if we lose a winch or something like that?
Hoist, diesel pump, if a float parts off in a storm, things of that nature are not going to be able to be absorbed by this budget. However, that being said, the diesel pump has been mostly rebuilt this year, and we have 2 backup hoists that are functional. And those are the things that give me a little comfort in looking at the line items in this budget, and feeling that we can proceed for the next fiscal year in a safe and sufficient manner.
Any more questions or comments from the board? I entertain a motion.
I move we accept the budget.
I'll second.
Ed made the motion. Sheila seconded it. Okay, Sheila,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, the motion carries. Thanks, Chris. Really
Thank you, guys.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Bless you, Jen.
So Dave, keep Jen there because we're going to talk about excise tax.
Oh, not quite there yet. You want to do it under other business? You want to do it
Yes.
now?
I want to do it
Yes.
under other business.
Okay, so item 12, accept a $100 donation in memory of Nancy Buchanan to the Nurses General account.
So moved.
Second.
First, I have a second. I'll do a roll call. Sheila,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
one says aye, motion carries, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, other business, Sheila,
I have none.
Ed,
None for me, thank you.
Pat,
No, I have nothing.
Mike?
I have nothing.
I have nothing, but I think boss does. Lori?
Can I
what?
speak? I'm the other boss. One thing. I just want to tell Lori how nice, or I think the tent situation is down at Allison's. I think it says a lot for the town and in cooperation with our businesses. So thank you, Lori, for even suggesting it, and I hope this all works out for everybody. Thank you.
I think we all hope it works out for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Lori, you're up.
So one item is, I emailed you guys the executive order from the governor yesterday. If you'll remember, as part of the original state of emergency, excise taxes were put on hold until after the state of emergency expired. A couple of weeks ago, the new order came out and said that if your town participated in rapid renewal, which was online, then you had to pay your excise taxes by June 11th. So we advertised that. Our front counter staff sent out notices for everybody who was owed in February, March, April, and May. And we also publicized the June 11th date. So this week, the executive order came out and said that they were giving people until July 11th to pay excise taxes, unless the town or city's board took action to set another date and give reasonable notice to the public. Since we have already gone through all the reiterations of giving notice to the public and sending out reminders with the June 11th date, I'm asking if the board would consider taking action to make June 11th the date that excise taxes are past due, excise taxes are due. I don't know if Jen wants to just talk about where we are with excise tax collection.
I can give a brief overview if you'd like. March, we were 85% compared to the prior year collection. April, 24% compared to the prior year.
Wow.
So far for May, we're at 80%. So if we can get this passed, this will be great. We can get this in and get those figures up. Get them back on track where they should be.
I'm good with
Okay.
it, so moved.
I'm out. I have a first from Ed.
I'll second it.
Sheila seconds it. Okay, roll call. Sheila,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. Thanks, Jen.
So speaking of excise tax, we just got notice from the Secretary of State's office today that the Bureau of Motor Vehicles offices will be opening up again on June 1st. They are asking that you only, and we'll send out notice on this tomorrow, but they are asking that you only come if you need to do business, and they are only doing it by appointment only. So you will need to ensure that you're not sick or haven't been traveling and potentially exposed. Wear a mask, but that includes, they'll also start with driver's testing for licenses again. It said in the email that they will prioritize commercial driver's licenses first, but the Bureau of Motor Vehicles offices will be opening again.
Hooray.
Hey, I can get a driver's license or get mine renewed.
Laurie, do you have anything else?
Ed just asked that I talk a little bit about Town Hall. So we had our soft opening of Town Hall last Wednesday. Staff did a great job creating a plan and strategy for how to get people safely in and out. And there was a lot of signage and tents and, Town Hall thanks all the departments, including police and wastewater and highway, who helped us get to the place where we were ready to open. How it works at Town Hall is planning and codes and finance and admin are still currently closed to the public because of the space limitations there. We will be opening up for appointment only, but we certainly are available by phone, email, any number of ways. The front office is open for all the actions that you would normally take in the front office. They are only allowing 2 customers at a time, again, in order to keep that 6-foot distance between people. There's plexiglass up. We ask people to wear masks. If you are not able to wear a mask, we ask that you call, and we'll make an appointment when the office isn't normally open. Our office hours currently are still the old hours, which are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We did have some discussion about whether we would need to close early in order to allow us sanitation time and process time. But so far, it has been going well enough that we're going to leave well enough alone and then adjust if necessary. There is one entrance, and that is on the ramp side of the building. So you come in through the ramp, and there are marked spaces on the ground, so you know where to stand until it's your turn to be called. If there's nobody in line, come right in, and there's a sign that says line starts here. Staff have been able to process a lot of people. I think we had quite a lot of people in last Thursday and Friday. Friday was very busy. Most people are for vehicle excise or beach stickers. Tracy reports had a lot of beach stickers on Friday. But so far, so good. Now, I'm still encouraging people, if you want to do online, we are doing online services. We're not charging any fee for online services for your normal operations. Certainly, if you pay property taxes or sewer bills online, that's a fee. We're still doing things by mail. We still have the Dropbox, and we have a number of people who are putting things in the Dropbox or emailing them to us, and then we will process them, and we're putting them in bags and envelopes out front by the Dropbox, and people are just stopping by and picking them up. So we have people in all categories of comfort with what they need and how they want to process, and we are open to all of those. If you have any questions, feel free to call the front counter staff, and they'll help guide you through that process.
Thanks, Laurie.
Thank you.
Did that answer the questions, Ed? Or?
It does. Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
I don't.
Okay. So I'm looking for a warrant motion.
So moved.
Second.
Ed makes a motion, Sheila seconds it. Roll call, Sheila?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye. Motion carries. Ed, you know what I'm for, right?
Motion to adjourn.
There you go.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Oh, excuse me, I gotta go back. Sheila?
Aye.
I know you're all in favor. Ed?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alan says aye, motion carries. You know what's gonna happen when we go back to meeting the old-fashioned way that we all enjoy? I'm gonna be looking at this stuff, and I'm gonna get screwed up. But that's okay.
That's all right.
We are all set. And I wanna thank everybody this evening, and we'll see you next time.
You bet.
Do you need any signatures, Lori?
I do. I need a variety of signatures, especially for the sewer commitment. So if people could stop by tomorrow.
So what's the protocol with that? If you have a line, I don't want to look like a line jumper. Just knock on your window or?
Yeah, you can just come through the door, and we haven't had lines the past few
Okay.
days, so
Just say you're essential, Ed, just say you're
Yeah, say
essential.
I'm essential.
Just
I don't
tell
want
them,
people to know who I am.
just carry a pizza with you.
There you go.
donuts.
Donuts. There you go, Mike.
There you go.
I gotta
You guys
do
have a good
grocery shopping
evening.
Tomorrow, so
You too.
perfect. All right, good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.